The forgotten advantage. The greatest advantage in life is not intelligence. It is not creativity. It is not luck. It is the ability to stay teachable after life has already convinced you that you are finished learning. Most people believe growth ends when survival ends. When they finally become competent, respected, or stable, they stop asking questions. They stop examining themselves. They stop listening deeply. They replace curiosity with confidence and call it maturity. But confidence that never renews becomes stiffness. And stiffness slowly becomes decay. Not loud decay, quiet decay. The kind that looks like stability from the outside, but feels like restlessness on the inside. The kind where you keep moving, but stop evolving. The kind where you succeed once and spend the rest of your life protecting that version of yourself. The tragedy is not failure. The tragedy is becoming unreachable by improvement. The mind that once searched now defends. The heart that once explored now explains. The spirit that once learned now repeats. And life does not punish this with disaster. It punishes it with irrelevance. While you protect who you were, the world changes who it needs. And slowly, silently, you fall behind without ever falling down. The discipline begins when you accept one hard truth. Mastery is not an arrival point. It is a returning point. The ones who stay sharp do not climb higher forever. They return deeper forever, back to basics, back to silence, back to attention, back to the posture of learning. This is the forgotten advantage. Not being smarter, being softer toward correction, not being faster, being humbler toward form, not being louder, being more precise toward truth. Chapter 2. The cost of closure. Most people crave closure. They want to conclude who they are, what they do, what they believe. They want their identity to feel finished. Finished feels safe. Finished feels organized. Finished feels respectable. But finished is the enemy of growth. The moment you decide you are complete, learning becomes a threat. Feedback feels like insult. Change feels like betrayal. And correction feels like danger. Closure is comfortable. But comfort is not the same as stability. Comfort is a temporary shelter that slowly turns into a cage. You do not notice the bars because they look like habits. You do not feel the lock because it sounds like confidence. You do not see the walls because they are built from your past success. The disciplined mind does not chase closure. It chases clarity, and clarity never finishes. Clarity always opens. It keeps the door unlocked. It keeps the mind alert. It keeps the ego light. The disciplined person does not say, "I know." They say, "Show me what I missed." Not as humility theater, as survival strategy. Because the world does not defeat people with force. It defeats them with change. And change does not wait for your readiness. It only respects your adaptability. Chapter 3. The beginner's position. A beginner is not someone without skill. A beginner is someone without defense. Most adults build their lives around defense. Defense of reputation, defense of intelligence, defense of experience, defense of status. They protect what they have already earned. But protection is not progress. Protection is preservation. And preservation without renewal becomes stagnation. The beginner's position is dangerous in a quiet way. Not because it attacks, but because it stays open. The beginner does not rush to prove. The beginner does not rush to explain. The beginner does not rush to correct. The beginner watches, listens, absorbs, adjusts. Where others perform competence, the beginner builds competence. The world rewards performance. Discipline rewards formation. To become a beginner again is not to erase your experience. It is to free your experience from becoming your prison. You do not abandon what you know. You refuse to let it control how you learn next. This is the posture that keeps a mind young without making it childish. Serious without being rigid. Confident without being closed. Strong without being brittle. Chapter 4. The enemy you cannot see. The greatest enemy of growth is not fear. It is assumption. The moment you assume you understand, you stop observing. The moment you assume you are right, you stop refining. The moment you assume you have seen this before, you stop seeing what is actually happening now. Assumption turns skill into routine. Routine turns attention into autopilot. Autopilot turns life into repetition. And repetition without awareness becomes decay. Most decline does not look like collapse. It looks like comfort. It looks like familiarity. It looks like doing well enough. It looks like staying busy. It looks like staying respected. It looks like staying relevant just long enough to avoid embarrassment, but not long enough to remain sharp. The disciplined mind treats certainty as a warning sign, not as a reward. When the thought, "I already know," appears, that is not confidence. That is the signal to slow down, to look again, to listen longer, to return to observation, not because you are weak, but because reality is always newer than your memory of it. Chapter 5. The discipline of return philosophy inspires. Discipline transforms. Without a method, ideas become decoration. The method of growth is not addition. It is return. Return to basics. Return to silence. Return to form. Return to fundamentals. Modern life teaches the opposite. It teaches constant movement, constant novelty, constant stimulation. The mind becomes restless. The attention becomes shallow. And shallowness disguises itself as ambition. But it is not ambition. It is avoidance. Avoidance of boredom. Avoidance of stillness. Avoidance of staying with one thing long enough to be reshaped by it. The discipline is simple, but not easy. Before you chase what is advanced, you stabilize what is basic. Before you expand, you refine. Before you impress, you improve. If you write, return to clarity. If you lead, return to listening. If you train, return to form. If you study, return to recall. If you speak, return to precision. Not once, daily. Returning is not regression. Returning is sharpening. Chapter 6. The Lifetime Stance. Most people treat learning like a ladder. They climb until they feel safe. Then they stop. They build a life on what they already know. They protect their level. They defend their image. They repeat their success story. But life does not reward safety. Life rewards renewal. The disciplined mind does not aim to arrive. It aims to remain reachable by improvement. It does not want to be finished. It wants to be alive inside its own growth. This is the lifetime stance. Not intensity, not obsession. Permanence. You do not need to learn everything. You need to never lose the habit of learning. Each day must contain one deliberate beginner act. One return to fundamentals, one correction of a small detail, one moment where you choose awareness over automation. That is how the mind stays young. Not by pretending to be new, but by refusing to become closed. Chapter 7. The Quiet Weapon. Modern life does not destroy most people with crisis. It destroys them with autopilot. Days pass without attention. Work continues without intention. Conversations repeat without presence. The body moves, but the mind sleeps. This is where discipline becomes a weapon. Not a loud weapon, a quiet one. The weapon is awareness under repetition. You do not rely on memory of the task. You restate the objective. You do not trust habit. You verify fundamentals. You do not rush response. You slow interpretation. You do not treat temptation as weakness. You treat it as information. This is not philosophy for peaceful moments. This is discipline for pressure. This is how you stay teachable in a world that trains you to become reactive. Chapter 8. The Vow of Practice. Growth is not built on motivation. Motivation fades. Growth is built on standards. Standards remain when emotion collapses. So the discipline becomes this simple vow. Never start from "I know." Start from observation. Never rush to prove. Rush to refine. Never protect your level. Protect your capacity to improve. Each day, before any task, work, study, training, conversation, you pause once. One breath, one release of haste, one return to basics. Then you perform one small act that proves you are still a student, not for applause, not for identity, for survival, because the mind that refuses to become finished does not age the same way. It does not harden. It does not become offended by new ideas. It does not panic at change. It becomes calm. It becomes adaptive. It becomes quietly dangerous, not because it knows everything, but because it never stops becoming. This is your discipline. This is your training. You are not here to be entertained. You are here to be reshaped. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and comment.